Hello, friends, and welcome to Figure Study, where we're doing something a little special today. I wasn't entirely sure how to wrap up 2019, and then Diana gave me one of my Christmas gifts early. So, what are we looking at? Well, in addition to all of the fantastic paintings that Diana does on a regular basis, you can check out her Instagram down there. She has also started doing some custom pop vinyls. A lot of her paintings deal with animals, and in many cases, she does animals that are in cosplay. Again, I urge you to check out her Instagram down below. It's full of really cool stuff. So with the pop vinyls, she's kind of taken that concept, and instead of animals cosplaying as pop culture stuff, she has started to make pop vinyls of people cosplaying as animals. She's done a fox, a beaver, and this one, which, as you could probably tell, both because of how it looks and because it's the title of the video, is Godzilla. So this was one that she made specifically for me because I am a Godzilla nerd, and it's one of those like kind of a perfect marriage of ideas things. So that is the backstory of this. It's basically intended to be a pop vinyl depicting a person. I want to say it's me, except the midsection is nowhere near thick enough, who is cosplaying as Godzilla. And we'll get into the details and all that in a minute, but first, I want to move this back so we can do the size comparisons real quick. So let's adjust this, and I mean, it's not any bigger than a usual pop vinyl. But just in case you are unfamiliar with or have forgotten, here it is with a standard deluxe, and yeah, that's about how big they are. And one more time before the new year, here it is with the duck tank. Alright, size comparisons out of the way, let's move this fellow back in closer. Now, there is a lot of little detail in this guy that I want to talk about, some of which I actually didn't initially notice when I first was handed this. It's more stuff that I started to notice when going in a little bit closer with the camera for the intro B-roll, if you want to call it that. Now, first off, looking at the broader strokes, one of the things that I always thought was cool and is cool about this is the fact that while this is meant to be a person cosplaying as Godzilla, it is absolutely not someone in like a perfect Godzilla costume. It's meant to look like someone who put a lot of effort into a costume, but still has like a little bit of a slightly handmade vibe to it. Like the fact that you've got an obvious mask here, which goes over the face. Like I like that there's this seam here that shows you that this is a mask that someone is wearing. And I love that she used clay to give him kind of like a hoodie. There's even like a little bit of a flap in the front there. And it kind of, it folds around. It's got some lines in it. And I kind of like the bunching in the back here that does make it look like it's a slightly loose-fitting hood. It kind of flows the way I would almost expect a slightly loose-fitting hood to flow, with these Godzilla plates sticking up off the back. And I also like how they're kind of seated in there to make it look like they were almost sewn into the fabric. It gives me the impression of someone who bought a dark hoodie and then made these fins or plates or whatever and then like sewed them on specifically for the sake of this costume. You can kind of see a little bit too in the arms here with the sleeves how it's just a little bit baggy, and comes down to a point here where it starts to go over the tail. It is actually a cloth tail with a little bit of stuffing in it, so there's a little bit of give to it. It's not posable, but it does move around a little bit, kind of goes up for when you have them stand on a flat surface. And I appreciate that little detail. It seems like something that somebody would have made for a costume, and it would totally be like attached to the back of their pants with the hoodie just kind of draping over it a little bit where it meets up there. And I also appreciate just the little hints of blue on the edges here that make it look like, not quite like they're glowing for the atomic breath, but it does kind of, like his plates kind of have that little bit of an edge to them. And it's much less noticeable with the smaller ones on the end of the tail, but it is still there. Like very tiny spots. And then there are the pants, which appear to be just from the pop vinyl itself. It does not appear as though there's any sculpting done there. I could be wrong. Okay, I've just had it confirmed for me that there is not any sculpting on the pants. So that is the straight up pop vinyl instead of sculpted pants. which works because, if they were baggier, then it would like kind of make it look less like the sweatshirt ends there. And then down here, you've got the big Godzilla feet, which are totally like, they have this look of someone basically bought Godzilla slippers from a store and used them for the costume, and that's kind of perfect. There's just a little bit of paint detailing in there. It's all hand sculpted. Those are tiny, tiny toes. And just in case anyone is curious, she does get blank pop vinyl figures and goes on top of that. So like the skin tone for the hands and the head and all that, that was all painted on. That did not come like that. And now to look at that head. Oh, specifically the face, because the face is the one thing we haven't talked about yet. This is interesting. I like how it is, as I said, it's like a mask. It's not the full head. That is a nifty detail. There's also a lot of nice little texture work on the inside that goes all the way through. It's not as noticeable as you get towards the edges because it's that darker color as opposed to the lighter kind of shimmery colors. But there's a nice kind of fade from one color to the other, and when the light hits it, you can make out all that little texture, which definitely denotes the scale textures that you would expect on Godzilla. Now, the face itself, the design is interesting. It's one of those things where there are so many different Godzilla faces. Like, that costume has been redesigned so many times over the past, I want to say almost 60 years, that there are a lot of different references that could be taken. And this one, for me, it has kind of a mixture of, like, she said she wanted it to be a nicer looking Godzilla as opposed to like the mean, scowling, scary one, which definitely comes across here. But in terms of like any kind of specific Godzilla that this mask might be referencing, it to me feels like a sort of hybrid. It has kind of the more flat nose and rounded face, rounded snout of the more current modern 2014-2019 US Godzilla, but then it has kind of the coloring and the eyebrow ridges and the sort of softness to the expression of the earlier, I want to say, Showa era Godzillas. More specifically, the ones where they were starting to be in color, not King Kong versus Godzilla, because if we wanted this to look like the thing from King Kong versus Godzilla, we'd probably have to set it on fire and then hit it with a hammer. But I feel like this is more, I want to say kind of Godzilla versus Megalon, that kind of era where it was more like Godzilla's much more kid-friendly and he fights the bad guys and the kids cheer him on, kind of like Gamera. So yeah, it's an interesting kind of hybridization of what I feel like is modern Godzilla and older, friendlier Godzilla. She did mention when she gave him to me that the tooth, one of the teeth, had chipped, which is unfortunate, but I kind of feel like it adds to the personality. I don't know, like having that one chipped tooth makes him feel even less threatening. He already has kind of like a softer, friendlier expression, and that just adds to it. As for the eyes, as sad as it is, despite being a pretty big Godzilla fan and owning all 29 movies on DVD, the one that came out in the 90s with Matthew Broderick does not count. I don't remember what color Godzilla's eyes are, but this works. The orange does actually stand out pretty nicely against the kind of grayish metallic-y green. Grayish, bluish metallic-y green. I don't know, it's an interesting color. Yeah, this is fun. This is a very cool and much appreciated gift. It's very neat and very, very me. It's one of those things where if Diana had said, hypothetically, if I were going to make you a pop vinyl that's someone dressed up as an animal, what would you want? I probably would have gone with Godzilla as my first choice, so this works out very well. Now, I suppose, in fairness, I do need to point out one or two things that are like, let's say, imperfect in air quotes, which, I mean, it's a handmade thing, so imperfections are kind of to be expected and kind of what makes it important and significant and one of a kind because it's handmade and imperfect. And this is particularly fun to talk about because Diana's sitting on the couch listening to me do this, so yeah. But to be fair, because I feel like it wouldn't be fair to go on and on and on about how much I love this, I feel like she wouldn't appreciate it if I didn't point out little things. She's laughing. I think that means it's okay. And again, keep in mind, handmade, also kind of made in a rush to get it done in time for the holidays, and Diana has a ton of work that she's always doing at all times. So the fact that this got done before Christmas at all is kind of a miracle, because she's always incredibly busy. But a little bit of paint on the hand there that missed the sleeve of the jacket or hoodie. A little bit on the thigh there. The skin tone is a little bit uneven, but then that could also be seen as they're possibly blushing because they're walking around dressed as Godzilla. I do think it would have been nice if the greenish, bluish, metallic-y, grayish, whatever colors these are in the face were mirrored a little bit more in the feet, but at the same time, the fact that they don't match makes sense because it's a cobbled together costume in concept. So like, it would make sense that maybe the slippers don't actually match the mask because the mask is something that the person made, the slippers are something the person bought. Really, the only other minor things that I'd say is like the lack of any kind of color at the top band here does make it seem like the person is bald. And I mean, they could very well be bald, but it means that I can't imagine that it's me dressed up as Godzilla. And the teeth, I think, as I said, I like the teeth. I actually think the one chipped tooth adds personality to it. It's just they're like stark white unpainted. I kind of feel like if they were weathered a tiny bit, they wouldn't stand out quite as much. Kind of make it look a little more natural, I guess. But again, it's a mask that someone made, so natural isn't really the goal here. But yeah, it's just very, very minor things. And again, this is something that was made by hand with love, I think.
Hate you now.
Okay, no longer made with love. And it's very, very cool. I really love this. And now that this video is over, I'm going to delicately tuck it away in the drawer, not drawer, what am I saying, drawer, in the shelf, covered shelf, where I keep the miscellaneous figures like Star Wars Black Series and Mechazone stuff, like essentially the place where I keep the non-transforming action figure-y type stuff. I want to keep him on that shelf because it's got a glass cover to it, which means I won't have to worry about dust. And that is that. That is my look at Diana's custom pop vinyl of someone cosplaying as Godzilla. This thing is adorable. And I very much urge you all, again, to take a look at Diana's stuff. Link in the description there. She does very, very cool stuff, some of which is for sale, some of which isn't. Her paintings are great. She's got plenty of stickers and prints if you're not in the market for an original work. There's lots of cool stuff there. Most of it geeky in some capacity. Anyway, I think that's a pretty good place to wrap this up because the stupid neighbor child is shrieking in the hallway. I don't know if the camera's picking all that up. So, gonna stop it here, but thank you everybody for watching. As per usual, feel free to chime in down below to let me know what you think. I always enjoy hearing from you all. And again, check out Diana's stuff. It's really cool. And remember, art is more than meets the eye.